Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're decoding a really fascinating blueprint, something we're calling the architect of persistence. We're going to unpack the exact anatomy of a breakthrough directly from our source text, and we'll do this by tracking the journey of a young person who absolutely defies the odds. If you're the kind of person who loves structured learning, actually breaking down how success is built piece by piece instead of just relying on dumb luck or generic motivation, well, you are in the exact right place. Let's jump right in. So, think about this for a second. What happens when you repeatedly fail at your goal? It's heavy, right? It's this undeniable reality that pretty much all of us face at some point. And our source material today centers entirely around this profound conflict, a young person dealing with defeat after defeat. It really begs the question, does repeated failure break you, or does it actually build you? Let's explore exactly how our subject navigates the mechanics of this friction.
Okay, let's dive into this. Section 1. The ambition and failure.
So here's the exact chronological roadmap of our subject's journey. Day 1 is just pure ambition. You know the feeling, setting the goal with super high energy and optimism. But by month 6, we hit the wall of repeated failures. Historically, month 6 is basically the graveyard of good intentions. It's where most people quietly pack up and go home. By year 1, that failure snowballs into this inevitable wave of external criticism and deep setbacks. But check out the pivot in year 2. Relentless hard work. And finally, year 3 brings the breakthrough. This timeline really proves that success just isn't some overnight phenomenon. It's a long, highly calculated, and honestly, a pretty grueling progression. Now, what do we actually mean by repeated failure in this context? Well, it's the iterative process of falling short of a goal. In the story we're examining today, failure isn't some glitch in the system. It's not a dead end. Instead, it serves as the foundational test for our young person's ambition. Think of it like the mandatory price of admission. Without this initial, completely uncomfortable phase of falling short, the rest of the architecture we're about to look at, it just literally cannot exist. Which brings us to Section 2, facing criticism and setbacks. And this brilliantly illustrates the central tension of our source text. It acts almost like a physical scale, balancing two opposing weights. On one side, you've got these incredibly heavy external forces pushing down. The harsh criticism, the endless setbacks, that societal friction of basically being told you aren't good enough. On the other side, pushing back up, you have the internal drive, the continuous hard work and just sheer stubborn determination. It's a really stark, visceral contrast between the outward pushback the young person receives and the inward resilience they absolutely have to muster up just to survive it. Holding that tension, it requires a massive amount of psychological strength. Our source text marks a huge turning point with this exact realization. Despite criticism and setbacks, they continue working hard. This is everything. The young person doesn't just sit there and passively suffer through the criticism. They absorb it, they internalize the data, and they keep moving. This is the exact moment where passive suffering completely transforms into an active rebellion against failure. Their only response to an external setback is simply to outwork it. Moving right along to Section 3, the engine of determination. Now, if we mathematically break down the components of a breakthrough based on our text, the reality might actually shock you. A massive 70% of the equation is literally just enduring repeated failures and setbacks. 25% is the hard work and determination that follows. And that tiny remaining 5%, that's the eventual breakthrough itself. Think about that. You have to endure that staggering 70% volume of failure just to earn a shot at that little 5% sliver of success. It completely reframes how we should view our daily struggles, doesn't it? The struggle isn't stopping the breakthrough, it actually makes up the vast majority of it. So let's walk through the mechanics of how this determination actually functions on the ground. Step 1, absorb the criticism. Seriously, don't deflect it. Take it in, strip away the emotion, and find a lesson. Step 2, continue working hard. The physical effort absolutely cannot stall, even when morale is super low. And step 3, cultivate determination and growth. This is the exact chronological process our young person undergoes. They are literally transforming their external setbacks into high-octane fuel for their internal journey. Growth is forged in the crucible of continuous effort. So why does this matter? What you really need to take away from this is that growth isn't magic. Actually, scratch that. It's pure mechanics. The continuous hard work demanded by the source text is literally the only environment hot enough to synthesize determination. If you pull back on that continuous effort, the crucible cools down, and the growth, it just stops. It really is that simple, and honestly, that rigorous. Let's move to Section 4, the eventual breakthrough, and see how this builds. Watch how this capacity builds over time. That initial ambition on day one, it's completely untested. Sure, it's highly enthusiastic, but structurally, it's pretty weak. But after enduring the intense friction of repeated failures, that baseline skill level climbs significantly. The individual becomes totally battle-tested. By the time the eventual breakthrough hits, their capacity is at an absolute maximum. The breakthrough isn't some random stroke of luck. It is simply the accumulated mathematical result of the growth generated in all those previous painful stages. And it all comes down to the number one, just one eventual breakthrough. After all those complex timelines, all the harsh criticism, and those long months spent in the graveyard of good intentions, it only takes a single defining breakthrough to completely validate the entirety of the young person's grueling journey. That one moment makes logical, structural sense of every single failure that came before it. All right, finally, Section 5, the architecture of resilience. Let's go ahead and crystallize the core takeaways here. First, failure is a prerequisite, not an endpoint. You have to pass through it to get anywhere meaningful. Second, criticism and setbacks aren't just obstacles, they are the actual raw materials required for your growth. Third, hard work and determination are the engines that process those raw materials into real progress. And finally, perseverance inevitably constructs resilience. This young person's narrative isn't just some inspiring feel-good story. It is literally a structural manual for how you can engineer your own persistence. The text tells us resilience is the architecture built from the bricks of repeated failures. It isn't a genetic trait you're just born with. It's a structure, it's a building, and it is constructed strictly from the bricks of repeated failures. This is the profound, unwavering message about perseverance that our source text delivers. It entirely shifts our perspective from just surviving failure to actively utilizing it. As we wrap up this explainer, I want to turn the mirror onto you. How will you apply this architecture of persistence to your own setbacks? Knowing right now that failure is just the raw material for your future breakthrough, what are you going to build with your next setback? Think about that for a bit, keep structuring your goals, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.